Hello, I'm Donna Rodriguez. Welcome to the Kingston School Committee candidate interview. I want to take a moment to thank our candidate for participating in this interview and collaborating with PAC TV to bring this informational programming to residents and voters this election season. Let me explain the format. We will be conducting a one-on-one interview-style Q&A format with each candidate, lasting about 30 minutes. Responses will not be timed, and follow-up questions may be asked during this format. We aim to ask up to 4 questions, but that will depend on the length of the responses, along with any follow-up discussion during this exchange. Candidates will be allowed to address anything not covered or that they would like to add clarification to at the end of the interview in their closing remarks. Let's get started. Today we're speaking with Timothy Lewis, one of the 3 candidates for Kingston School Committee in the Kingston town election. Tim, thanks for joining us today.
Donna, thank you for hosting me, and to PAC TV for hosting me and the other candidates. This gives us a great opportunity to speak directly to Kingston voters, many of us who know us and some who don't. So thank you for the opportunity.
No, and we appreciate all of you coming in and being able to share your views with voters in the town.
Yeah, no, it's a great opportunity. Thank you.
So let's just get right into the questions, if you don't mind. What do you believe is the role of a school committee member, and what do you see as the priorities of the committee? Okay.
So first and foremost, I view my role, so I come at it from a unique perspective where I'm an educator myself. I make my career in a South Shore public school system, and I'm also a parent where I have 4 young children, who 3 of my older children are in the Kingston elementary schools. So I have a unique perspective in that sense. And I believe that our #1 priority as a school committee is to advocate for parents who are the chief advocates for their children. And I've had the privilege to do that on my time on the school committee, especially through some challenging times where families felt that their voices need to be heard. And I view our primary role is to advocate for families whose #1 job is to advocate for their children.
Are there any additional priorities for the committee that you see?
Well, without question, budget is first and foremost something that we have to take very, very serious. Responsible budgeting for schools in the community as a whole is critical. And then also, of course, all policy is governed through the school committee. So taking a careful look at everything that comes across our desk in realm of policy. That could be employment policy, curriculum, a host of things. But I view my primary role is to advocate for families, and in doing that, it touches into budget, touches into curriculum, staffing, and resources in general, so that all the students' needs can be met. Not just a select few, all of the students.
Thank you. So how do you see your role in working with other town departments, especially when it comes to advocating for your own organization during budget development, when all departments are really looking for pieces of the same pie with sometimes very limited resources?
Yeah. So yes, we can all agree that the barrel is not endless. You know, my dad used to joke that we don't have a money tree. Neither does the town of Kingston. So we have to be extraordinarily responsible when we're looking at budgets. What I have learned is even the staunchest fiscally conservative individuals believe that schools should be fully funded. What is the #1 driver of property values? Schools. So, like I said, even the most staunchest fiscal conservatives will share that schools need to be fully funded. We're fortunate. We are a resource-rich community in the sense that our schools have an abundance of resources for our students. Those have to be paid for. But it has to be balanced. We have to consider what the other departments are asking for, what the other departments need, because those are equally important, right? Police, fire, our DPWs, they are very, very important in their own right. But schools, 99 of 100% of people will tell you they need to be fully funded.
Thank you. Okay. What do you see as the biggest challenges facing our schools today, and how can the school committee help in dealing with those challenges?
Yeah. So, there's always been challenges. I would argue that after the past 2 years, we're still navigating some significant challenges. But I do want to credit Dr. Kerry Whipple and Mike Bambury and Jill Prue and the rest of the administration who showed some leadership despite some really, really challenging times. The classroom teachers have gone above and beyond the call of duty, and I thank the parents of the community who have made a very, very difficult situation better through their work on their end. So we're still going to be navigating the fallout from COVID restrictions that were put on our kids. We're going to have to support them. I know that there are gaps in learning because of remote learning and some hybrid learning that we need to address and address fairly aggressively. I'm also very mindful of the need for increased resources. I said previously we are resource rich in many ways, but I foresee that due to circumstances, through no one's fault, that we may need increases in our resources, and that has to be looked at very carefully in a collaborative way so that every student's needs are met. So I'm also looking at closely the potential for a population bubble in Kingston. We've had an abundance of new homes built, which is wonderful because we're bringing in a lot of new people to our community that bring some value. But we want to be mindful that we are in a position to serve all of the citizens. And if each one of those homes sends 2 or 3 students in the next 3 to 5 years, we need to be prepared to serve those students.
Do you, in addition to the housing and COVID, are there other challenges you see facing the school system right now in Kingston?
So, of course, the fallout due to COVID, but I do think that, and I'll give you an example, we're still ironing out our budget, but the school administration came to us and we're looking to add positions. And of course, we take a very responsible approach to budgeting. We may be looking at increasing our staffing down the road, and that might be a challenge to navigate. But what I share with all school administrations and even members of the community, as long as we have a rationale for it, if we're able to create a rationale for why our school needs X, Y, and Z, I know that the Kingston residents will support that. When my wife and I came to Kingston in 2013, I was struck almost immediately at the love of community, the love that families have for their children, and how much they value education. So that's why I sought to be on school committee, because we have so many shared values throughout this community. But as long as we have a rationale for addressing these problems, that the overwhelming majority of the community is going to support us.
Thank you. What are your thoughts about how the district and the schools can encourage involvement and participation from families?
Okay, so that takes leadership. So the administration, and I've already spoken about Mr. Bambury and Dr. Whipple. I think they do a tremendous job communicating with the families in this district. So one administrator once shared to me in a different district that if the families don't know we're doing it, it's not happening. And there's some wisdom in that, right? So it's up to us as educators to communicate with families what the classroom looks like, what the school community looks like, what services are being provided. And I think that our current administration does a tremendous job communicating with the families, reaching them out, inviting them in. Unfortunately, the last 2 years, there were some restrictions about who could come into the school and have those shared experiences with their child's classroom teacher, their child and themselves. But we're looking for that to be increasing over the next few months and obviously into next year.
And as you said, now that things are lightening up a little bit for restrictions with having people come into the school, and in addition to communication, are there other things that you think could help encouraging further involvement from families with what's happening in the schools?
Yeah. So there are schools that host community events. So, for example, you can host community meetings where a grade level can take on a subject that the school is embracing, like an initiative around maybe social emotional learning. Grade 5 could take a community meeting where members of the community are invited in. And when I say members of the community, I primarily mean families, are invited in to be a part of what's happening on a day-to-day basis. So you can give a snapshot of what the school looks like in an hour community meeting, and families get to see their children in action in their element. So that's something that could happen. I foresee things similar to that happening as we progress forward out of the COVID restrictions.
Thank you. Many townspeople may think that money is the solution to improvement. But what significant improvements do you feel can happen without additional monies?
Okay. So one of the things, if we could create more time in our staff's day to do what's called common planning and working across the grade levels, I'm not saying that's not happening now, it is, but better is a never-ending quest, right? So if we could create more time through administrative planning or policy, allowing grade levels, cross-discipline units, specialist teachers, special educators to collaborate and work together to formulate lesson plans, inclusion, co-teaching opportunities. I think that is a way that we could really advance our educational structure without it costing the taxpayers a dime.
Thank you. Now, for the next few minutes, before we close up, I'd like you to have the opportunity to talk directly to the viewers and the residents and tell them about topics that are important to you that you maybe haven't had an opportunity to talk about yet in this interview. And also tell them a little bit more about yourself if you feel that there are things that they don't know about you or your family or your ideals for school committee.
Great, thank you. So, as I previously mentioned, my wife and I came to Kingston in 2013. We looked long and hard at which community we would make our home in on the South Shore. Like many families, we decided on Kingston for a multitude of reasons. But first and foremost was the love of community that was evident throughout the residents. So we moved to Clifton Drive off of Grove Street, and I joke with my Quincy friends, that's where I'm from. I moved to Kingston, I've never looked back. And my wife and I have been extraordinarily happy raising our 4 children in Kingston. My oldest is 11, my second oldest is 8, number 3 is 6, and then the baby, even though she's 3, we still call her the baby. But we've been very, very happy making our home in Kingston. And it's not just the schools, it's the baseball fields, it's the hockey rink, it's the Reed Center, it's the library, it's the religious groups. We've been very, very happy here, and I just want to serve the community in which makes us very happy. I previously mentioned how I make my career in education. I took a unique path to the classroom. When I graduated high school, I went into the building trades. There's great honor and dignity working in the union. I was a union carpenter, and I learned a great deal, but I knew that I wanted to try something else. I went back to college at age 24, earned a degree, and began teaching in 2007. And it's been a wonderful experience wherever I've gone. I've had public school experience, private school experience, high school, elementary, but the majority of my career has been at the elementary level, where I currently serve as a school counselor, meeting the needs of the student population in the area of social emotional learning. My role as an educator is to support a student so that they are in the classroom available to learn. It's tremendously fulfilling. There are days where we work harder than others, but again, it's tremendously fulfilling. And I think that's why I'm uniquely prepared to serve the schools in Kingston for the next 3 years. Not only do I work in education, I work in elementary education. I've experienced from the inside and the out, because I have young families, what the last 2 years have been like. I know what the social emotional needs are, both in our families and in our schools. And I think that makes me uniquely qualified to serve in this role. So I'm excited about the opportunity to continue the work I'm doing, and I humbly seek your vote on April 23rd. Again, please, I humbly ask for your vote, Timothy Lewis, on April 23rd.
Tim, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time, and we wish you the best of luck throughout your campaign and also in the election. And for our viewers, thank you for joining us. If you're interested in watching replays of this interview, please visit our website, pactv.org/elections, for replay times and online viewing options, including PacTV's on-demand and streaming service, PacTV Prime. And please make your choices heard by voting in the election on Saturday, April 23rd. Thank you and good day.